Okay, so I sometimes go back and look at videos that I do or documents that I do. Just look at them with fresh eyes, and I should have done that with this document here, but I decided that the sample 4 scoring that I gave was, well, that the sample I gave for sample 4, the content that I gave for sample 4 and the scoring didn't really align with how I would have graded that sample in the test. And so I decided I needed to work on sample 4 a little bit, especially when I reread the original text. So a lesson to get from this is that even the professor can construct answers that need to be revisited. So I would certainly think that a student in constructing their answer, even after evaluating it and thinking critically about it, might want to put that work away and then come back to it. So if something can get by me, it certainly can get by you. So if you look at this new version of sample 4, everything is the same up until this point right here, so the document that you downloaded. And then what I did is, let me take a look at the original. Then what I did was I added, in the document that you have, it says, after engaging with many politicians, so that's actually the same, right? That was in your original document right here. I don't think I had highlighted it in yellow, but it was there, and that was a new detail that was added in sample 4 that wasn't there in the previous examples. But then the new details that I have come right after, where it says after engaging with the politicians. I add that Socrates, still we have Socrates decide, so that's actually the same from your, with respect to your handout. But then I added, he decides, and I should have here that, give me a second here. The politicians think they know something when actually they know nothing, while Socrates claims not to know anything and doesn't think otherwise. So what did I add? Well, remember, we're talking about, the question is asking what advantage does Socrates have over the politicians? So it makes sense to say, well, what is it, if Socrates has an advantage with respect to knowing and thinking that you know something, how does that relate back to what he concluded about the politicians? So developing an adequate and precise answer really requires that we do include what it is that the politicians think about what they know and the fact that they think they know anything, and what Socrates thinks with respect to knowledge, and whether he thinks he has any knowledge. Now, one thing that would still be lacking in this answer is that there's still some detail from the original text that we could bring in, that we bring into sample 5. That said, I did, and the score would stay the same. So now the scores better align with the sample I've given as it's here constructed in sample 4 in this version. So you might want to just cross out the 2 lines in your part and then add these 2 revised, add these, well, I shouldn't say 2 lines, cross out the last sentence and then add the revised sentence. So same thing with my perfect answer. I realized this was not the perfect answer, at least not in my mind, using my criteria. If you want, you could cross out everything after, let's see, my original statement said, you could cross out everything that comes after decides and then rewrite what I have here. So I changed, I think I moved some things around, but I also added. So one thing that I did here in this perfect answer, in this revised perfect answer, is I incorporated more word from the last questions, from last question, more words, or at least one more word. And I said that Socrates decides that an advantage he has over politicians, right? So we know that he has interacted with politicians, and actually I could clean this up here and say after interacting with the politicians. I could say after interacting with many politicians. Oh, sorry, right. Sorry, give me a second. I'll find my way back over there. Just ignore what I did up there. Let me reread this. After interacting with a particular politician, oh, here's where I want to add it, and many others, Socrates decides, and so what I added again is a word from the question. So he decides what? Why do I want to know what the politicians think about what they know and what Socrates thinks about what he knows? Well, why is that significant? Well, we're talking about an advantage that Socrates perceives. So we want to bring that word in from the question. Socrates decides that an advantage he has over the politicians, right? So you can see that I've got, let me see if I kept it the same from as up here. Yeah, so what I did here was I first started with the politicians, right? They think that they really know something about the beautiful and the good, but in actuality do not. So here you see that I have the detail. It's not just that the politicians think they know something and they don't, but you see that I added the word really, because that's what Socrates says, that people think they really know something, but do we really know something? And of course, thinking you know something is not the same thing as actually or really knowing something. So again, this I already had in the last version of sample 5, but still the main change here in sample 5 is that I have the significance added to this part of the discussion when I incorporate the word from the question and advantage. But there you go. So in this answer, when it comes, this part of the response or the discussion, the claim about what the politicians know and what they think they know, we get some more detail by saying what they really know, talking about beautiful and the good. Those are Socrates' words. And then you see here I have whereas, right? So A has an advantage over B. There's some kind of relation between A and B. And of course, this word whereas helps us to bring that claim about an advantage together in a nice coherent package. So now this response better aligns with the grading and what I would think of as a perfect answer with respect to these 3 questions. And one thing that I forgot to mention in the last video is that don't forget that when you're doing the essay discussion part of the test, that you're actually going to have 2 paragraphs. One is going to focus on the apology by Plato, some excerpt, right? And then the other paragraph is going to be more subjective, where you're going to relate something from your personal experience, of course, to the extent that you are referring back to your discussion of Socrates. You don't want to misrepresent Socrates or Plato, and you want to be sufficient in making claims, teasing out claims of comparison or contrast or whatever it is that you're dealing with in that other part of the test for the essay part.